Konami Studios.
So, Blood of Zeus. Here's a show I only recently learned about like a couple days before it dropped on Netflix. And I was like, oh, I get it. You know, you kind of got that Castlevania style of animation. A lot of people enjoyed Castlevania, myself included. I think it's a really interesting show with some interesting ideas in place. So you're taking that kind of style of animation and that anime style, but you're going to do something with the Greek gods? I am sure as shit on board. I have said it a lot of places. And every time I say that, I always forget I never said it on here. You should do more of the Greek gods. There is a history and a pantheon of characters and stories that could be told about those characters. And I think there's always some cool stuff that's explored with them, but then we don't really get stuff for like a long period of time. Like we had, what was the last like big action Greek thing we had? Was it Hercules with Dwayne Johnson? I want more of them. I like these characters. I like what these can do. I think there's some really cool angles you can play with the Greek gods. This was no exception. The story of Blood of Zeus follows that of Heron, and Heron is the bastard son of Zeus, like every fucking god is pretty much, and a mortal woman who was a queen. Now, Heron's story is one I wasn't too familiar with. You know, I wasn't exactly sure on what it was, because more often than not, when we go down the route of the Greek gods, we see the other sons of Zeus. We see Perseus or we see Hercules. But going here, I'm like, this is a really interesting angle, and I really did like it. There was a lot of great stuff in here. The animation is very solid. It's very stylized, but I think it works well for this genre and this kind of character building because you can see some really interesting designs that are unique to each person. Like the way they build up every character, I think, is very distinctive, and you could tell right away who that person's going to be. And I like, too, that they made Heron very simpler looking compared to some of the other characters, even the other mortal characters. Just because he's kind of not supposed to be this, like, big hero yet. He's still trying to figure himself out, so I kind of like that he looks a little plain compared to others. I will say, though, before we get more into the actual story, the character designs for Zeus, Poseidon, and Hermes are the ones that really stood out to me, just because those are like three characters that people, they should be instantly recognizable. They did a very good job of portraying those characters. Hermes in particular, somebody I've never really been fascinated by as a character, gets a lot of great play in this show. Just the way they show his power and his idea and who he is, I think it's very cool, very interesting stuff there. It worked really well. You know, and that's what I like to see. I wanted this to feel like a big Greek battle where it's like the world is literally going to collapse because of this one small injustice that has been done to something. That's the idea of the Greek characters, the Greek pantheon of gods. So let's play that shit up to the max. And we do here. We really do. Every character is likable to the most part. They give a lot of depth to our villain characters, and I won't get too in depth on the villain characters because if you aren't familiar with this story, like I wasn't, I mean, I knew who Heron was, I knew who the characters in his like story were, but I didn't know the specifics, you know? So there was certain things I'm like, oh, this is a cool angle and a cool area to play up. Certain things involving the actual enemy of the demons that we see, and certain characters of the gods. And we know the story of the gods. I don't think this is a spoiler, but we know Hera is one of the gods of all gods, and they give her a lot to do here. And I think for the most part, the actual like stories of Hera try to make her out to be this really crazy, vindictive lady. I think they humanize her enough in this series. Now, I'm not saying she is straight up crazy or anything, but we get enough of her backstory where I'm like, I understand why she is this person that we've read about in history books and all that other stuff. I get it. I liked seeing that. I think they did a good job with her. And on that note, too, I think they did a good job of humanizing Zeus for the most part. But at the same time, like, there's only so much you could do to do that with Zeus because he's a prick and he fucks everything. So you can't really just, like, try to make him cool or try to make him something he's not. He's always going to be a playboy who's doing whatever he wants. And they try enough where I'm like, oh, I see where you're going for with this. I don't think it's a problem at all. It worked. Jason O'Mara voices Zeus, which I'm like, oh my goodness, Batman is Zeus. And it works. It really did work just the way he did things. All the character designs are good. They all look really classic, very unique to themselves. And you get a lot of just great ideas for that. All the characters are very fascinating too. Heron's journey is very believable in this. Like, you just see where he starts off, how he feels, and as the story progresses, you see where he ends up. It's a very satisfying conclusion and one that spends a lot of time building up to that. I like it too. It's not just about Heron. Like, this story is equally about our villain, Zephram, and some other characters. Like, we get a lot of supporting characters that they each have a moment. I won't say they're as like big or prominent as our lead hero and our lead villain, but each character does have their own moment where we learn a lot about them, about who they are. Alexandria, I think is that the name of the female character? Either way, she did great. Jessica Henwick played her. That was weird. I was not expecting to see Jessica Henwick in here, but I was like, yeah, okay, I'll take it. That's pretty fun. And it was just like a nice kind of show that you could just throw on. If you know the story, you don't have to like get too in depth in, but if you don't, it's enough to grab you and fascinate you and keep you occupied while you're watching it and keep you interested. I think it definitely does that well. At times, I do think it lagged a little bit just in terms of like, do we really need to spend this much time on this scene or with this character or in this moment? And some scenes I do think like individual scenes or frames play out a little bit too long. And I understand that's like the stylized look of it, where you just kind of hold on the person's expression a little too long or a little longer just so you get the full effect, but you don't need it. You got such a great score and you got a great title sequence that you don't have to go that hard into like the expressions. We understand the emotions right away because of all those other things. So it really worked for the most part there. I did enjoy it, and the end couple episodes are really cool. You're getting some really unique fighting stuff that you haven't really seen with the Greek gods before on screen. And I think that's something to the testament of this show and this genre. Like, we've always kind of just seen the Greek gods in live action, you know? I'm a huge fan of Clash of the Titans. I love every incarnation of that story. I love most Hercules things. For the most part, I don't have any problems with Percy Jackson. There's some things about it I don't like, but I don't have a problem. But I think now that we're literally just going to go anime and they're sexy god people, you have a lot of freedom there to like go bizarre and crazy. We get some really cool designs for titans and monsters and stuff. The demons look insane. And the landscapes are gorgeous. In particular, Hell. Now, we won't get too deep into what's going on there, but the way Hell looks in this, it's amazing. Absolutely gorgeous, and just, it's unbelievably so Greek and that mythology, but somehow manages to be timeless in its own thing. I think that's very impressive and something I love about it. There's not a lot to hate about this show. If anything, it does lag a little bit, but it's only 8 episodes and they are relatively short. They do jump in different like lengths, but that's not a bad thing. Sometimes you have to have those varying lengths just to truly appreciate something for what it is. And I really did think it worked really well. The animation is very Castlevania, so if you liked Castlevania's animation, you are probably going to like the Blood of Zeus animation. If you were on the fence about it, I will say I don't know if the budget here looked bigger than Castlevania, because I think at times here we get more like static shots than we did in Castlevania, but it's not going to upset you. If you like the Greek gods, you're going to like this a lot. If you like great animation, I think you will enjoy this. There's not a lot to hate. Just some really fun voice acting with some really fun characters, and it's got a very timeless feel to it. I hope this continues. I would love to see more characters show up, more ideas become in place for this universe, and because I think you could do more of these characters, even if like the actual story of them doesn't go further. Well, you're creative enough where you can go to new places and take opportunities, but it's your classic Greek pantheon god story, and it's really fun. I think a lot of people are like it. Now, this is a Netflix show, so we'll see how long it lasts. I hate to say that, but you guys know it's true. But overall, it might be worth your time. So, Blood of Zeus, I am going to give an 8 out of 10. And thank you guys so much for watching this review. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. And as always, you can check me out on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, all that good stuff. And I will catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck.